Good evening. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. The death toll from that leak of poisonous gas at an American-built pesticide plant in central India now is more than double first reports, perhaps triple that number. The United News of India today put the dead at 1,200. The other figure being quoted most often is 1,000, most of them children. Our coverage begins with Steve Croft in London.
The central hospital at Bhopal was littered with 500 bodies, and there were 500 more at medical centers and morgues around the central Indian city, all victims of what may yet become the worst industrial disaster in history. Most of the dead were children and old people unable to run away from the deadly methyl isocyanate fumes that seep from a Union Carbide plant and into the sleeping town early Monday morning. Many of the dead are still unidentified, marked only with a number on a band of adhesive tape stuck on their foreheads. Hundreds of people waited in line to claim the bodies, while volunteers loaded corpses onto dump trucks for delivery to relatives, cremation grounds, or cemeteries. There were hundreds of funeral pyres around the city, some within sight of the Union Carbide plant. Small children were buried rather than cremated, according to religious custom. Then there were the survivors, hundreds of men, women, and children, many of them blinded by poisonous gas, groped their way through the city searching for medical care. The overburdened hospitals were able to treat only the most seriously injured. Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi toured Bhopal today and told reporters that in the future, India would not allow the production of dangerous materials in heavily populated areas. It's believed as many as 20,000 people have been affected by the poison fumes. An acrid chemical smell still hung over the city today, which is littered with dead water buffalo and farm animals. Local crops have been damaged, and there are fears that the food supply may have been contaminated. And doctors at Hameda Hospital have already begun to worry about the possibility of severe, long-term health problems. Steve Croft, CBS News, London.
All U.S. production of the poisonous methyl isocyanate gas at this Union Carbide plant in Institute, West Virginia has been halted until company investigators figure out what caused the disastrous leak at a sister plant at Bhopal, India.
We've shut the West Virginia plant down out of an abundance of caution. We are in a time period here where we really don't know exactly what happened, and we think the prudent thing to do is to stop the operation until we get a better fix on what went wrong over there.
We have the most outstanding safety considerations in our plants operating outside the United States as we do within the United States.
Despite statements from Union Carbide officials that the India plant was a state-of-the-art facility and that safety rules match those of their U.S. plants, federal officials say the chance of a similar accident here is remote. Deadly methyl isocyanate gas has been manufactured at this West Virginia plant for more than 17 years without a single fatality. But the tragedy in India has frightened some local residents. People like Lisa Davis and her 8-month-old son Van, who live just a gentle breeze away from the Union Carbide plant.
If you think about for a while, the same thing could happen over here that happened over there.
And you don't want to worry about that.
Right, worrying about what that plant's going to do, looking out my window wondering what's going to happen over there at that plant.
It frightened me, it's a shock, really, to realize, that it could kill so many people in such a short time.
More than 120,000 people live in the Kanawha Valley, all within 20 miles of the Union Carbide plant. Thousands depend on the chemical industry here for their livelihood, and some, like Jane Smith, say they have learned to live with the danger.
Things have to be done. Things have to be made. I don't think we can stop it.
But company officials say production of the gas will remain stopped indefinitely. Tonight, a group of top Union Carbide officials, including the company's chairman, is on its way to India to learn what went wrong and to offer assistance. Peter Van Sant, CBS News, Institute, West Virginia.
Soviet leader Konstantin Chernenko is quoted today as saying that a summit with President Reagan could be held soon, but he set some conditions. American industrialist Armand Hammer met with Chernenko today and quoted him as saying it was time to, quote, roll up one's sleeves and get down to business on arms control. But Chernenko said he wanted the United States to accept a treaty banning first use of nuclear weapons. The White House today repeated its long-held policy not to be the first country to use nuclear weapons, but that it would not rule out using them in response to an attack.
This Remington microscreen shaves as close as a blade or your money back. Look, no cord. It's rechargeable. It never needs a cord because this convenient charger stand keeps it continually charged. The Remington microscreen shaves as close as a blade or your money back. Here's why. The first screen shaves incredibly close. The second screen even closer. The Remington microscreen rechargeable shaver shaves as close as a blade or your money back. And the Lady Remington rechargeable, the perfect gift, shaves without a cord.
America was born with a dream. A dream that says, in this great land, each and every one of us has the opportunity to build a life that's rich and rewarding. At Prudential Bache Securities, we believe in that dream. We can show you how total financial planning can bring you a richer life for today and tomorrow. Call us. We're Prudential Bache Securities. America, bring us your future.
New chapters tonight in the separate controversies that swirled around the finances of Walter Mondale and Geraldine Ferraro during Campaign 84. Federal Election Commission documents out today show the Mondale campaign has agreed to pay the U.S. Treasury almost $380,000 plus a civil fine of $18,500. The reason for the payback and fine, the controversial contributions to the Mondale campaign during the primaries by labor union political action committees that critics said at the time were illegal. The Mondale campaign today still insisted those donations were legal, but they agreed to pay. As for Geraldine Ferraro, the House Ethics Committee said today it found that she had committed, quote, technical violations by failing to make full disclosure of her husband's finances. But the committee also found, quote, no deceptive intent and won't take any action against her. Ferraro today called the committee's findings vindication.
The key finding in the report is that in no instance did I act with any intent to deceive anyone. That finding confirms me in my belief, which I have asserted repeatedly, that I never acted in a manner inconsistent with my public trust and responsibilities.
Two Republicans on the House Ethics Committee dissented from today's findings on Ferraro, calling the conclusions too kind and the lack of action too mild. A new day in court today for supporters and opponents of public school prayer. A day for arguments before the Supreme Court on whether to change the justice's generation-old ruling that public school prayer is unconstitutional. Law correspondent Fred Graham looks at the Supreme Court's approaching moment of truth concerning laws in almost half the states that would have public school pupils observe a daily moment of silence.
Would you bow your head for a moment of silence, please?
Children in this rural Tennessee classroom and in 22 other states bow their heads each day under state laws which permit a moment of silence for prayer or meditation. But not in Mobile, Alabama, not anymore, since the father of 3 Mobile school children challenged the practice in court.
I object to any school official telling my children when to pray. I think prayer is a private matter.
The Federal Court of Appeals declared the Alabama law unconstitutional. It called the moment of silence a subterfuge to permit unconstitutional school prayer.
This is a moment for a certain kind of contemplation and reflectiveness, namely prayer, that the state begins to get into the religion business.
Those who say the children should start their day with a moment of silence insist that this does not amount to unconstitutional government-sponsored prayer, because the students are free to pray or just daydream. But that doesn't satisfy the critics.
My children wouldn't know the difference between prayer or meditation. My children would be bowing their heads, praying along with other children, following the lead of the instructor. And this is something that I do not wish to happen in a public school setting.
If the Supreme Court upholds the moment of silence, supporters of school prayer hope that it would eventually lead to a complete restoration of classroom prayer.
Getting a moment of silent meditation is sort of half a victory. I think we're saying that something was there for 170 years. The Supreme Court took it away. They're willing to hear part of the problem right now, so we'll agree to that, and we'll keep fighting after that.
For spoken prayer.
For spoken prayer. Spoken, voluntary prayer.
In the Supreme Court arguments today, the justices seem to see little wrong with the Alabama law. Several of them said that silent prayer by school children is constitutional, and that setting aside a special moment when the silent prayer could take place didn't seem to violate the separation of church and state. Fred Graham, CBS News, Mobile, Alabama.
FBI Director William Webster said today that bombings of abortion clinics in the United States do not meet the Bureau's definition of terrorism. Therefore, said Webster, the clinic bombings do not get high priority attention by the FBI. At least 20 abortion clinic attacks were reported this year. Well, there are 21 days until Christmas. For one Milwaukee family, that holiday countdown goes beyond celebration. Meredith Vieira reports a lawman's life and death struggle with the law.
When Judy Peterson visits her husband John in the hospital, he asks her and their 2 children, "Now what day is this?"
That hurts.
Peterson, a 20-year police force veteran, is dying of cancer, but unless he can hold on until Christmas, the family will not be eligible for his pension benefits.
I'm hopeful that he'll make it till Christmas. 3 weeks is a long time in someone in his condition.
I've got faith, and I found out through all this exposure that people are praying for us, and
You said he was a real fighter.
I'll make it, yes.
Sergeant Peterson has fought against leukemia for 3 years. In October, he applied for monthly pension benefits to be turned over to his family. Then he discovered he would have to live another 60 days for that to happen.
Is it fair?
No. I don't believe it is fair. But it's the law.
Cancer doesn't always abide by man's law, and Peterson's peers understand that now. In their new contract, they are trying to change the rule. Too late for one officer's family, but not for others.
Listen, it is hard for him to know that all this fuss is going on over him, but yet we realize it's going to help other people.
At next week's City Council meeting, several of the aldermen plan to introduce a resolution that would guarantee the Petersons the pension benefits, regardless of when Sergeant Peterson dies.
He is part of Milwaukee, and we are very concerned.
The council passed a similar resolution a few years ago involving a terminally ill employee who miraculously survived. Peterson could use a miracle himself right now, or at least some peace of mind. Meredith Vieira, CBS News, Milwaukee.
It's proving to the world that 7th and 8th graders can care and can do something.
This is the skilled cordless screwdriver Barbara gave me. Weighs ounces, has a high torque motor. We're talking serious power here.
Wish I had one.
Dries 500 screws on one charge. We charge it in a few hours.
Wish I had one.
Mighty handy in the house or out of the house.
Wish I had one.
And like all skilled tools, the cordless screwdriver is built to last and last and last.
You shouldn't have.
You're right.
Apartheid has been the official policy of the South African government for the past 36 years. Constructive engagement or quiet diplomacy with South Africa has been the policy of the Reagan administration for the past 4 years. Opposition to both policies has sparked protests that have spread nationwide since Thanksgiving. Bruce Morton reports.
7th and 8th graders from an expensive Washington private school demonstrated against apartheid today. Something is happening.
We're trying to show the white South African government that we care.
What's happening probably started with Nobel Peace Prize winner Bishop Desmond Tutu of South Africa, who's been reminding Americans, he spoke at a congressional hearing today, that the wrongs of racial segregation in his country are fundamental and unredressed, and that in his view, the Reagan administration is on the side of wrong.
Apartheid is as evil, as immoral, as unchristian in my view as Nazism. And in my view, the Reagan administration's support and collaboration with it is equally immoral, evil, and totally unchristian.
The 3 gentlemen are now under arrest.
The American protest started as a trickle. Congressmen like Parren Mitchell of Maryland and others getting arrested for picketing the South African embassy. But it's growing. Those kids at the embassy, far enough away not to risk arrest. Well-heeled protesters in well-heeled Beverly Hills, California. More protesters in New York.
There will be hundreds of pickets, if not thousands, in many American cities. There'll be hundreds of arrests across the country.
The Reagan administration says the idea that its policies promote segregation and violence in South Africa is rubbish, that its quiet diplomacy has meant gains for blacks. Critics say violence is up. These demonstrations came over the new Constitution last August, and that the administration will be forced to change its policy as Americans learn more about U.S. relations with South Africa. The picket lines are growing, and organizers plan other protests. Economic action, for instance, against U.S. companies which invest in South Africa. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Washington.
Near Manchester, England today, there was a two-train collision that, considering its damage, surprisingly caused only 2 deaths. A 9-car express train with some 300 passengers crashed into a freight train pulling 15 tanker cars filled with home heating oil. A huge fireball engulfed the engine and front 2 cars of the passenger train. 77 people were injured. Well, live television is fraught with danger. Anything can go wrong at any time. That's certainly what happened on Dutch television last night. There was this panel discussion on the former Dutch colony of Suriname. One man supporting the military government there, another opposing it. The opponent said something that displeased the bodyguard of the proponent, and that's when something went wrong. The shouting continued for a while. 1 shot was fired. Nobody was reported seriously injured.
At a recent wine tasting near Rome, some restaurateurs discovered a special American wine.
Elegante.
They thought it excellent. Buono. And they tried to guess its price. Most guessed between $7 and $10. Except for one.
Not even $3.
Who was the judge who knew the wine did not cost $7 to $10? Francesco Giambelli, who had served the wine at his famous restaurant in New York. Gallo Chablis Blanc. From Ernest and Giulio Gallo. All the best.
Believe it or not, this kitchen has lots of places for a Whirlpool microwave oven. A compact for a compact place. An oven over the range, this way or this way. One that goes in here. A wall mount for here. Actually, one for just about anywhere. Most models offer our balanced wave system for all-around cooking performance and our quick defrost cycle. And every Whirlpool microwave oven comes with our promise to make your world a little easier.
A Kuwaiti Airways jet on a flight to Karachi, Pakistan was commandeered to Tehran today by 5 Arabic-speaking hijackers. 150 passengers and 11 crew members were aboard. State Department correspondent Bill McLaughlin has learned that at least 3 of the hostages are Americans, employees of the U.S. Agency for International Development. Shortly after the plane landed in Tehran, shooting broke out inside the airliner and 1 hostage was killed. The hijackers later reportedly released 43 hostages. No further details are known at this time. Votes are still being counted today in Grenada's first parliamentary election since a leftist coup almost 6 years ago. But enough returns are in to guarantee victory for Herbert Blaise, head of the moderate U.S.-backed New National Party. An Israeli military convoy of 20 tanks and armored personnel carriers today moved 6 miles north of Israel's Awali River defense line in Lebanon. There were no reports of Israelis engaging in combat, but they moved into an area where the Lebanese army and Druze militia have been fighting. The Israelis have occupied portions of Lebanon since their invasion 2.5 years ago. An event which occurred during the early days of that occupation is being argued now in a most unlikely place, a New York City federal courtroom. Bernard Goldberg has been looking into this.
It happened on the outskirts of Beirut, a city where hate and revenge and killing have deep roots and long memories. This time, in September 1982, it was a massacre. Hundreds of men and women and even children were slaughtered. The killers were Christian militiamen, the victims Palestinian civilians. Ariel Sharon, Israel's former defense minister. He says Time magazine libeled him by suggesting he instigated the massacre. Sharon has spent a lifetime on battlefields, but none like this. Federal court in New York City, where he is suing Time for $50 million, charging Time accused him, in effect, of being an accomplice to mass murder. Sharon would not be interviewed. His lawyer spoke for him.
I don't think there's any question that he's motivated not only by his personal indignation, but by the consequential injury that this does to his people. And frankly, I am the damage to my people because I too am Jewish.
Times said in an article called "The Verdict is Guilty" that Sharon had discussed the need for the Christian militiamen, who were allies of Israel, to take revenge for the assassination of their leader, President-elect Bashir Gemayel. Times said the information was contained in a secret appendix to this report, prepared by an Israeli tribunal, that said Sharon bore indirect responsibility for the massacre. In court, Sharon has admitted letting the Christian Phalangist troops into the Palestinian camps, but he told the jury he had no idea they would massacre civilians. That prompted skepticism from Times' lawyer.
If I drop a rock out the window and it falls to the ground, can I convince you that I didn't know it was going to fall? If I know what people are going to do and I order them to go to the place where they can do it, and I surround the area and I don't go in with them to watch them, and they do what I knew they were going to do, what word do you put on that?
Sharon says he came to this battlefield to defend the truth and his reputation. Time has said Sharon's reputation has long been that of a bloodthirsty, insubordinate militarist. That, in effect, Sharon had no good name to lose. Floyd Abrams, an expert on libel who is not involved in the case, explaining Times' contention that Sharon is libel-proof.
Time says even if the story was wrong, it's not the story that hurt Sharon. It's Sharon who's hurt Sharon. People were in the streets already about Sharon, Time says, long before Times issue came out. They were in the streets because of what happened in Beirut. And so Time says we didn't do it if what you mean by it is the loss of reputation. Well, we're not the ones that led Israelis to call you a murderer. What you did is what led Israelis to call you a murderer.
And today, in the Israeli court of public opinion, the jury is split.
He's absolutely right. And I think it's also the problem of Israel, because this writer blamed Israel, not just Arik Sharon. I hope he will succeed.
I think the Time magazine is right, not Arik Sharon.
Sharon's lawyer has said you cannot let it go down in history that an Israeli general committed mass murder. But many observers believe there's another not-so-hidden agenda, that if Ariel Sharon wins here, he'll go home vindicated and run for prime minister, in effect using an American courtroom to clear his name 6,000 miles away in Israel.
Shalom.
Bernard Goldberg, CBS News at Federal Court, New York.
Retired U.S. Army General William Westmoreland today finished his testimony after 9 days on the witness stand. That's in his $120 million libel suit against CBS. There was one surprise today in U.S. District Court in New York, where Westmoreland is challenging a 1982 CBS News documentary about enemy troop strength during the Vietnam War. The general's lawyers introduced as evidence what was described as a memo of a 1967 staff meeting at which Westmoreland is said heard evidence from his intelligence officers that the enemy forces were larger than previously reported. This memo was introduced as evidence to back up Westmoreland's previous testimony that he ordered further study of the subject instead of suppressing reports of larger enemy forces, as the CBS documentary had reported.
Blackout. But both families have rechargeable lights. One has Ready Light from First Alert. The other family has the other leading brand. There's a big difference. Ready Light lasts 50% longer on a single charge, stands by itself, and shines the light where you need it. Get the rechargeable light that lasts 50% longer. Ready Light from First Alert. And remember, fire officials recommend a smoke detector on every level of your home. Get First Alert, because your family comes first.
How old should your child be before you buy a computer? High school, when he's planning a career? Elementary school, when she can either fall behind or leap ahead? Or preschool, to give him a head start? When you buy is up to you, but Commodore makes the decision easier than any other computer. Because it's a 64, it's very powerful. Because it's Commodore, it's very affordable.
For the dark places around your home, even those places with no electricity at all, Black & Decker creates the Lighting Series. For the workspaces, where light doesn't reach. For those times you need to feel more secure. The Black & Decker Lighting Series Light from a very reliable source.
Officials in San Clemente, California said late today that a man carrying weapons held at least 10 people inside a bank after apparently being wounded by police in a robbery attempt. There was no immediate word on the condition of the hostages. An archaeologist in Washington today called the new discovery deep under the sea the most exciting and important ancient shipwreck found in the Mediterranean. Susan Spencer looks at one of mankind's more dramatic voyages, a journey into the farthest reaches of the past.
Until the dives began off Turkey's rocky coast, the wreck had lain undisturbed for over 3,000 years. It is the oldest ship ever excavated, having gone aground around the time of King Tut in Egypt. All traces of its crew are gone, but its cargo is remarkably intact.
I tell you, the insurance brokers took a pounding.
Of most concern to any Bronze Age underwriter, a priceless gold goblet found 150 feet down. There was also pottery from Cyprus, Phoenicia, and Greece, which helped date the wreck at 1400 BC. And there were raw materials, copper and glass ingots. Archaeologists believe this was a cargo ship, but sailing under whose flag and bound for what port?
There is a mix on this ship which is puzzling us no end. The study of this material is going to play a pivotal or key role in trying to understand what was going on.
The excavations will continue for 5 more years in hopes this ship has more secrets to reveal.
It's just so rich. It doesn't matter now where it takes us. It's taking us on a voyage all of its own.
Susan Spencer, CBS News, Washington.
And that's the CBS Evening News for this Tuesday. Dan Rather reporting. Thank you for joining us. Good night.
You don't need a big vacuum with lots of extras. You need big cleaning power. So at Regina, we got rid of the extras. The expensive ones went, the heavy ones did too. What we got was a lightweight, one that cleans just like a big vacuum. And the clincher, it costs less. We called it the Regina Power Team. Consumer Reports called it, quote, the only lightweight that was an adequate substitute for a full-sized vacuum, unquote. The Regina Power Team, all the cleaning power without all the extras.
Chrysler introduces the new technology of driving. Turbo New Yorker. Front-wheel drive, electronics to inform you. Chrysler luxury to comfort you, and turbo power to move you. Turbo New Yorker. Once you drive it, you'll never go back to a V8 again. This is Chrysler's most technologically advanced luxury car, backed by the Chrysler Protection Plan. Turbo New Yorker by Chrysler. The best built, best backed American cars.
Norelco Rotatract, the shaving machine that challenges the world. Every blade, every electric, in closeness, comfort, speed, and performance. Only Norelco holds a charge up to 3 times longer than any leading razor. Only Norelco packs 3 floating heads with a patented twin-action shaving system. Get it? And like it, or get your money back. Remember, only a Norelco performs like a Norelco.
Tomorrow, a look at a teenage auxiliary police force and new toys and trinkets from the movie Dune. Wake up to what's happening on the CBS Morning News.
This is CBS.